biomedical science issues, expand locations in India where world-class biomedical research is performed. Over the span of 10 years, the India Alliance team has successfully anchored a fellowship program that offers 3 types of fellowships under the tracks of basic biomedical research and clinical and public health research. These are early career, intermediate, and senior. To date, the India Alliance has supported 320 fellowships, including 87 early career, 144 intermediate, 38 senior, and 5 Margdarshi. We also have 15 research training fellowships supported. These fellowships have a pan-India spread across 93 institutions in 34 Indian cities, and approximately 20% of these awards have been made to universities. 33% of the India Alliance fellowships have been given to women. 24% of the awards have been made to institutes less than 10 years of their existence. The award conditions that guide the Indian Alliance Fellowship ensure that the funded research proposal meets the international standards of practice and ethics. The India Alliance funded researchers have made impressive advances into knowledge generation and translation of this knowledge into application, treatment, and policy for improving human health. Besides supporting exceptional biomedical research, scientists at the Indian institutions, through these fellowships and a continuous system of engagement and mentoring, India Alliance aims to build a strong research ecosystem in India that can drive innovations to tackle health challenges and inspire the next generation of researchers. Through its science communication and public engagement initiatives, the India Alliance has trained over 2,500 PhD students, postdocs, and early career researchers from more than 150 research institutions. Today, as we complete 10 years of a successful partnership, both sides have agreed to move on into the second phase of another 5 years. In this phase, our endeavor is now to expand and bring this together along with the universities, research institutes, and industry. These are critical components of our growing innovation ecosystem. We will now move to the next level of funding, moving from fellowships to collaborative research grants and clinical research virtual centers. The research would be on India-centric priorities and themes and will position One Health as the central theme. We are pleased to have with us the Director, Wellcome Trust, who has been a wonderful supporter of this unique initiative. I would once again like to convey our deepest gratitude to the Honorable President. Your presence here today, sir, signifies your deep involvement and engagement with science. Through this partnership, we hope to address your vision of strengthening the research ecosystem in universities and centers of education. I would like to wish everyone here a very good and productive 2 days of discussion following this. Together, we look forward to a very renewed partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swaroop. As a memento of the occasion, I request Dr. Harshvardhan, Honorable Minister for Science, Technology, Earth Sciences, Environment, Forests and Climate Change, to present a Madhubani painting to the Honorable President of India. Professor Jeremy Farrar is director of the Wellcome Trust. He's a tropical medicine expert who's worked extensively on infectious diseases, tropical health, emerging infections in Southeast Asia, and he's been at the helm of Wellcome Trust for over 5 years. I now request Professor Jeremy Farrar to please address the gathering.
Honourable President of India, Honourable Minister, and distinguished colleagues, it is a unique pleasure and honour to be here today to celebrate 10 years of this extraordinary alliance. I do not take credit for the initiation of this. This goes back before my time, and I think it's fair to say that many in the room should deserve all the credit, and we certainly stand on the shoulders of giants for those who had the vision and the hard work over the last 10 years to make this a reality. Particular tribute to the Government of India for taking the step to work in partnership with an international partner, with the Department of Biotechnology, and with all my colleagues at Wellcome who have made this possible. Your vision was remarkable, and I hope we will live up to that both in the past and in the future. There is no doubt that for Wellcome, this is the closest government partnership we have. It is something we are immensely proud of, and we believe we're only at the start of what is actually possible. If I look at the present, and you heard many of the numbers from Renu, if I look at the present, what has been achieved over the last 10 years is truly remarkable. The best researchers from across the country in open competition, striving for excellence, transparency, and setting the bar at the very, very highest level. We should celebrate the role of science in society here in India. And it has surpassed even those visionaries amongst us who set it off. I think it's fair to say this has surpassed all expectations. It is truly world-leading as an international partnership, and something everybody should be very proud of. But as we look forward to the next decade of this India Alliance partnership, the world will change in ways that at the moment we cannot predict. Science will change. And we do face very real challenges, whatever challenges you may choose as your own area of interest. Drug-resistant infections, the continued challenge of tuberculosis, the rise of the non-communicable diseases, climate change and its impact on health. Mental health both as an illness but also as an economic productivity issue. The continued threat of epidemics all over the world, including here in India. How are we going to use data? How are we going to make sure that data is used to improve science and health, but which protects society, which gives their data for others to use? And how are we going to address, as a world, growing inequality? There is no doubt that science has a role to play in all of these issues. Science combined with innovation, and science innovation that brings and links to the societies in which we operate, gives us the best chance of addressing these great challenges. The India Alliance's flexibility provides it with a responsibility to lead, to do the research in the best possible way, to ensure that we provide the best environment for researchers to reach their goals, to do so in a diverse and inclusive way, such that anybody from anywhere with a good idea can be supported. We must push on. We must use that responsibility, because it is a big responsibility, to not just be the best India Alliance here in India, but to provide a model for how international partnerships can work around the world, and people can come together across borders and across boundaries to make science a reality, to improve the well-being of all our citizens wherever they may be. Finally, a thank you to the hard work of all of the people within the Alliance, many of whom I met last night. Without your hard work, this would never have been achieved. And finally, a thank you to the Government of India. You took a risk in partnering with an international organization. I hope it has proved fruitful for you. It is something that Wellcome is intensely proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Farrar. Professor Vigyan Bhavan is Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. He is an internationally renowned researcher, and he now advises the government on strategic science and technology policies. Please welcome Professor Vigyan Bhavan.
Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind ji, Dr. Harshvardhan, Minister for Science and Technology, Earth Sciences, and for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Dr. Jeremy Farrar, Director of the Wellcome Trust, and Dr. Renu Swarup, our host, and Secretary, Department of Biotechnology. It's a great celebration, 10 years of this alliance, And it also is a time to reflect and see how we are going forward in our science in the country and how the next phase of the alliance is going ahead. I'd like to use this opportunity to particularly thank the President for his initiatives recently on science and technology. He has been regularly meeting vice chancellors of universities, many of which he's the visitor, of the IITs, the new ICERs, and also meeting groups of scientists, first in Bangalore, then in Kolkata, and more recently again in Delhi. And in all these, he has stressed the critical importance of foundational development of quality science or basic science leading to consequential effects on our society and our economy. And this is something which is a very important message, and this is a message which I think we will see again in the next phase of the alliance as we try to strengthen the foundations and extend the footprint of science, particularly biomedical science. I'd also like to, as Jeremy did, point out the incredible work which was done leading up to the formation of this alliance, and to that, the credit goes to teams headed by Dr. M.K. Bhan, who was then Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, and his colleagues in the Department of Biotechnology, and Sir Mark Walpert at the Wellcome Trust and his teams over there. They embarked on the first of its kind alliance, where the Government of India and a charity partnered together to fund equally a flexible mechanism of stimulating biomedical research in the country in a big way. And this is something which is incredible, and all of you here and those of you who couldn't come are testimony to the success of this alliance. Yet, as we go ahead, we face some very important challenges, and they broadly fall into two kinds. One is something which Dr. Renu Swarup addressed, which is broadening the capacity of science, biomedical research in this country by spreading the role of the alliance into the university ecosystem, particularly into the medical and veterinary ecosystem, but also into the university system in general. It has been said several times that one large American university has more clinical researchers than all of India put together. And if this has to change, our structure of clinical research in India needs to change to stimulate researchers, to stimulate clinicians to go into research. This is something we've discussed a lot, and the time is now ripe for us to move ahead by making mechanistic changes, structural changes in the way clinical research is organized, and similarly for veterinary research, and also integrating these into the university system to make it attractive to pursue research outside the boundaries of our laboratory. And this includes research in our biodiversity, in our ecosystem, in evolutionary biology, and so on, which are the foundations of biology. The second aspect is really taking our research, our biomedical research, outside the silos of our laboratory. We have done well in fundamental bench molecular cell biology and genetics, but this needs to be, if it is to be something which is leading as opposed to doing well and following what is done elsewhere, then it has to be inspired by our ecosystem and inspired by our society, in addition to being inspired by the best research all over the world. There are signs of this happening with greater engagement in many of our institutions with our society, but this again is something which the Alliance has shown the route by having excellent engagement programs, but they also need to scale up. I'd like to end by pointing out the great opportunities in what is otherwise a very difficult situation in the planet regarding climate change and the state of the environment. Global warming, greenhouse gases, and other anthropogenic interventions which have devastated the environment are apparent all around us. Yet, these require all of us here, particularly in countries such as India, to engage much more with these problems because they afford opportunities not only for us to be able to solve them, but afford new discoveries which can prevent these kinds of things from scaling. For example, in 2015, 200,000 antelopes in Kazakhstan died suddenly in that spring, leaving behind, of the total population, only 100,000. The reason for that was not known, but was discovered last year by researchers, and it turns out that a bacteria which resides in the nasal passages of these antelopes, because of increased humidity and temperature, could multiply disproportionately than ever before, and these caused hemorrhagic septicemia in these antelopes. Now, this is an example of how a minor increase in temperature can result in a dramatic change in a population. And this can happen to an antelope, this can happen to humans, it can happen to other animals, and so on. And therefore, interacting in our research, and our most fundamental research, with the environment is both an exciting opportunity, but a very, very pressing need. And that's something which we should look at. Similarly, changes in temperature have resulted specifically in insects, arthropods in general, going into environments which otherwise we did not find them. And this means that these vectors of human disease spread in areas not known before, but also other zoonotic diseases can emerge. India was one of the founding members of the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI. The Wellcome Trust is one of the founders too, and the Wellcome Trust and other organizations, several governments have led in a global effort to anticipate potential epidemics and deal with them. India is on the verge of scaling its involvement, and that's something we should do speedily in these and other kinds of examples. And lastly, the state of change both in our lifestyle and our environment means that the link between our genomes, what we inherit genetically, and what our lifestyle is something which needs to be understood at the level of local populations, and therefore this is a very pressing need. India has decided to embark on a major project which will link genomes, lifestyle, tissue banks with genomic medicine, and this needs to be done in an affordable manner as distinct from a manner which is very expensive in what's called personalized medicine today in the West. So these are opportunities and threats, and these are something which all of us need to grasp, and these can only be grasped by doing what we're doing better and by scaling up excellence all over the country, which is what the Alliance is about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I now request the Honorable Minister for Science, Technology, Earth Sciences, and Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Dr. Harshvardhan, to please address the gathering.
Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind ji, Professor K. Vigyan Bhavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. Renu Swarup, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, and Dr. Jeremy Farrar, Director, Wellcome Trust, all the distinguished scientists, academicians, researchers, students, and distinguished guests present in this august gathering, friends from the media. Well, at the outset, let me first express my gratitude on behalf of all of you to our Honorable President. You see, he has been blessing us on virtually every scientific occasion. I think in the last 1 month itself, I have had the privilege to participate. This is the third function with him. First one was for an international gathering of gynecologists, then it was the inauguration of our India International Science Congress, and today it is the celebration of the DBT Wellcome Trust. 10 years, I think, we don't remember if he have ever said no to us, so we are really extremely grateful. He has been encouraging all the scientists, giving us all the guidance, all his vision, and he's showing us the way forward. Always motivating us, and it I think gives a tremendous boost to all of us. So we have to express our gratitude, and we are hopeful that he'll continue to extend all his blessings to us in future also. Well, it is with immense pleasure that I'm here to celebrate 10 years of the partnership of the Department of Biotechnology and Wellcome Trust. 10 years ago, Wellcome Trust committed to invest about £8 million each year for 10 years in India. Department of Biotechnology, in its turn, committed to match the funding, and this led to the establishment of a joint partnership of 160 million pounds. The investment was made in India for Indian researchers and towards advancement of biomedical research in India. It is only appropriate that the Department of Biotechnology has now agreed to enhance and expand this initiative with increased investment from DBT. The Government of India has over the years strategically developed scientific collaboration which has positioned India as an important player globally where scientific research and development is concerned. Working with the best globally has resulted in significant capacity building for us within India. We have partnered with the most scientifically advanced and acknowledged government and non-government agencies. The DBT Wellcome Trust partnership has been unique as it is perhaps one of the few fellowships grants in India focused entirely on biomedical research with the vision to promote an international culture of science and bring the best funding and research management practices to India with a decided impact on capacity, limit brain drain of science, and bring the best funding and research management practices to India with a decided impact on capacity, limit brain drain, and enhance a culture of also supported researchers from India and abroad, including foreigners to work in India. As a clinician myself, I understand the urgent need for the clinicians to be able to carry out scientific research. Only a clinician dealing with hundreds of patients every day can recognize the uniqueness and significance of the cohort he or she examines. To be able to validate the impressions and observations, the clinician needs time to carry out scientific research. And this time needs to be protected as the outcomes of the time for research can have immense impact on healthcare. Indian medical practice uses Western parameters for their clinical diagnosis and treatment. But as new research shows, population studies are necessary for tweaking the standardized medical practices for different population sets. I am glad to see that DBT, in partnership with the Wellcome Trust, have tried to bridge the gap between the clinical practice and scientific research. I am also pleased to learn that research emerging the joint support has already led to evidence for policy change. India faces significant health challenges as it races towards fulfilling the Sustainable Developmental Goals 2030. Heart disease is the leading individual cause of disease burden in India. The contribution of cardiovascular diseases to total deaths has almost doubled since 1990. The number of Indians living with diabetes has grown from 26 million in 1990 to 65 million in 2016. The incidence of cancers increased by 28% between 1990 and 2016, with new cases of cancer reaching 1.1 million. The incidence of infectious disease continues to be high. With one of the highest densities of human and animal populations, India is a hotspot for zoonotic diseases. The increasing health burden of the country is challenging. New initiatives. The DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance has an added responsibility for taking the benefits of science to society. It should be able to use the established strengths to advantage and create a social impact which is congruent with the vision of both DBT and the Wellcome Trust. As the partnership moves into the next phase, it is heartening to know that the alliance is expanding and enhancing their cooperation with more emphasis on clinical research and more commitment from the Department of Biotechnology towards the partnership. I am happy to note that the Alliance will target more ambitious collaborative grants that would use multidisciplinary and multi-institutional approaches to address important health challenges for India, strengthen clinical research and cooperation between the clinician and scientists through virtual clinical research centers. I urge and hope that the partnership will expand its geographical footprints to universities and provide universities the opportunity to connect with the best in research across the world. I wish the Alliance the very best in its future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now request the Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovindji, to please address the gathering.
Union Minister for Science and Technology, Earth Sciences and Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Dr. Harshvardhan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. K. Vijay Raghavan, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Dr. Renu Swaroop, Director, Wellcome Trust, Dr. Jeremy Farrar, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to be here for the commemoration of the 10th anniversary of the partnership between the Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, and the Wellcome Trust. This partnership, the Alliance as it is known, was set up in 2008 as the first co-funded association of a government science organization and an international charity, phase 1. Of the Alliance has focused on biomedical research that covers basic, clinical and public health sciences. As we have just been told, the Alliance has lived up to the vision of those who gave it shape. In the past 10 years, it has awarded 320 fellowships to researchers in 93 institutions across 34 Indian cities. It has laid a special emphasis on younger researchers at the start of their careers when support is most crucial. The Alliance, I am glad to learn, has designed flexible support programs for women researchers who are coming back to the lab after a break for family or maternity reasons. This attempt to widen the social, regional and gender diversity of science in our country is deserving of praise. Much of our scientific talent is lost because enough opportunities are not available in smaller centers, outside big cities, or because our system cannot sufficiently accommodate deserving women candidates who are striving to balance a rewarding career with domestic demands. As I have said on earlier occasions, this is a situation that urgently needs to be addressed, whether in academic institutions, R&D facilities, industry or government. Life sciences today offer a frontier that is still largely unexplored. It is worth noting that while textbooks of the foundations of physics change little from year to year, textbooks of biology and medicine are a work in progress even at fundamental levels. The sciences of genetics, of evolution and of human development have yielded enormous knowledge in recent years, but we are only at the beginning of a new age of exploration. It is sobering to remember that the human genome was sequenced only about 15 years ago. In relative terms, the collaboration of information technology and big data with the big biological sciences is still in its infancy. There is so much that lies ahead. If I could use a historical analogy, we have built the steam engine, but the bioscientific equivalent of the Industrial Revolution lies before us. Partnerships such as the one between DBT and the Wellcome Trust will power this new revolution. And I am confident you will have the full support of the Indian scientific community, ably led by the Principal Scientific Advisor, Dr. K. Vigyan Bhavan. As it completes its first decade, this is an opportune moment for the India Alliance to draft its priorities for the next phase, to look ahead with even greater courage and go forth even more boldly. Just as the alliance was started by not doing simply more of the same, you must now open a new path. What could that new path be? Today, through science and technology, humans wield unimaginable power over the future of our planet. We therefore have a responsibility like never before. And scientists, particularly bioscientists, are our soldiers and generals in the battle of safeguard our planet, our species, and our future. To my mind, there are 4 front lines in this battle. The first is the environment. Our air, water, and soil must be cleaned. While we do so, we must mitigate the consequences on human and livestock health. An enhanced thrust on studying human and animal health in real environments and finding solutions to problems such as asthma, respiratory disorders, and cancers is needed. The second front line is that of lifestyle diseases. Diabetes, hypertension, and cardiac diseases are on the rise. In the quarter century since 1990, the number of Indians living with diabetes grew from 26 million to 65 million. In the same period, the incidence of all cancers increased by almost 30%. Diet and lifestyle are key factors, as also maternal, fetal, and neonatal health. Both prevention and treatment are vital. The third front line is infectious disease. While we take on known infectious diseases, lesser known ones threaten to expand. Here too, we must study the disease in the context of its environment and all its hosts. For example, how does Nipah virus reside in bats? How may its infection spread? How do we test candidate vaccines for humans? These are global challenges. Your alliance must address these issues and partner globally. Disease like science knows no boundaries. Pandemic influenza virus don't need passports and visas to spread. On the other hand, the shrinking of animal habitats is creating room for zoonotic diseases and diseases that jump species. The final front line is disease of the brain. Factors that include urban stress and a significant elderly population have left India facing a mental health epidemic. Preventive measures relevant to our genetics and our lifestyle are in the realm of theory, waiting to be discovered. We must discover these if our people are to age well with full mental capacities. If this is not researched by us in our population, ailments such as dementia will be a major problem, and solutions from elsewhere will not fit here. Let these four front lines define the future of the India Alliance. To win this battle, it is critical to democratize the adventure of biotechnology in India and to research and find answers to pressing and neglected diseases that have long troubled our people and our country. I am certain that our extremely capable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, a medical doctor himself, will help take forward this process. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the edge of an era of great hope as well as of great uncertainty. Personalized and precision medicine, genomic medicine, lab-generated organs, rationalizing data privacy with data use for clinical research, and the larger public good issues such as these offer a scope for our well-being, but could also pose bioethical dilemmas as well as legal questions. Separately, but perhaps relatedly, there is the subject of regulation and policy framing. In India, in various fields, we have sometimes found a gap between those who are practitioners and those who are regulators. As the biosciences grow and evolve, I would like more practitioners to come into regulatory roles as well. This too is an objective for all of us to consider and to work towards. Of course, this objective would only be a sub-part of the greater objective of ensuring a healthy life for every Indian and indeed every citizen of our shared planet. With those words, I once again congratulate DVT and the Wellcome Trust for completing 10 years of the India Alliance. May the Alliance continue to thrive and prosper in the years ahead. Thank you. Jai Hind.
We thank the Honorable President for his valuable words. And finally, to propose a vote of thanks, I'd like to invite Dr. Shailaja Vaidya Gupta, Advisor, Department of Biotechnology.
It is my proud privilege and honor to express the gratitude of the Department of Biotechnology towards the Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind ji. Sir, we are grateful to you for taking the time to be with us today. Indeed, you have always graciously